a drag. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for coming on our beautiful June day. This is our final book sandwiching of the season.
Is it really?
It is, and we are happy to have Joanne Brokaw here to talk about today's book because she has been talking about this book with me for over a year, so we are very interested to hear her take on it. Just for some announcements, I'm Dina Viviani, the programming manager here at BML. Just in case there is an emergency, the door on my right, your left, is our closest exit. For anyone using a hearing aid, we invite you to take advantage of our induction loop system. It amplifies all sound coming through the microphone. We also ask that if you have any questions or comments, wait for the mic. Joanne, we know she can't help but interact with the audience, so I'll do my best to keep up with the mic, but we'll try to leave some time towards the end for questions with the mic. Please turn off or silence your cell phone now so as not to disrupt the speaker. And we want to thank the Friends of Brighton Memorial Library for sponsoring this program. They will also be having a pop-up children's book sale on the same day as our summer reading kickoff, which is Friday, June 26th. So please make sure to stop in this room from 9 to 3 on that day if you are interested. You can also enter for summer reading. We have summer reading for adults, where every book you read is good for an entry to win a gift card to local businesses. And please grab a June program brochure from the table before you head out. We do have another program in this room tonight with Color Bright and Green. We also have Cookbook Club, we have Bestseller Book Club, we have Mystery Book Club, all still coming up this month before our summer reading kickoff. And no copies of Shark Heart were in today, but if you would like to read it after hearing this presentation, please stop by the info desk and you can place a hold. And I've also grabbed some of the other books that happen to be in that were from this season. So if you missed any reads from earlier this BSI season, some of the choices are there. You can also grab one of the lists, and again, you can ask for holds to be placed. And with that, I'm just going to do a quick introduction of Joanne Brokaw, our lovely speaker. We met some years ago now when Joanne was telling me that she runs improv theater programs. So since then, she has done a number of them for us for adults, tweens, and teens. And everyone always laughs and has a great time. She's also been a BSI speaker for us before on the topic of theater. And she's an author, writer, actor, director, educator, improv theater host. She's the artist in residence at the East Rochester Library currently, and likes to go with her rescue dog, Bo, to do some arts programs there. And she's had Fringe Fest appearances and other such places around the community. So we want to thank her for coming. Welcome, Joanne.
Thank you so much. That was like the best introduction ever because I feel so much better about myself now that you've done that. Full disclaimer to start with. I was here in January 2025 and we talked about Tom Lake. Was anyone here when I was talking about Tom Lake? And you came back. Okay, fantastic. Because if you remember, I talked about Shark Heart then because I was in love with the book. And the irony is that since then, my life has taken this weird transformation journey. I feel like while I am not a zebra or a shark or a Gila monster, there is something very different about me and my life. So I stand before you today with an eye issue I've been dealing with. So if it starts watering or I have to put my sunglasses on or I'm just seeming completely buggered more than usual, just like give me some grace because like it is what it is and that's how the day is going. Also, my dog Bo has been in separation anxiety training since we were here last, and he has been home for 2 hours this week by himself. I have him on camera. We're checking in, the trainer checks in. So like there's just a lot of changes that have been going on, a lot of them good, some of them not great, but that's okay because transformation is one of the things I want to talk about today as part of the theme. Before we talk about anything, I have been recommending this book for since it came out. I do not know why I started reading this book, but I read it and then I finished it and I read it again. And then I read it again and I told everyone about it. And people either were like, oh my gosh, I love this book, or 2 thumbs down, okay? And so the fact that the room is half full tells me most people went with this. But also, I went and listened to the audiobook. And so what I want to ask first is how many people actually like read, like held the book in their hands and looked at the pages and so first, who did that? Okay. Did you find that you liked the book? Was there something about the book you found that you liked? How many liked? Two? Okay. All right. How many people listened to the book on audiobook? Is there anybody who didn't even read or hear the book at all? Oh, fantastic. Okay.
Libby count?
Yeah. Like if you listened to the Oh yeah, I want to know if you heard of the book because I think the last time I was here I talked about how I don't do audiobooks. And so since I've not been able to read a whole lot, I've been doing a whole lot of audiobooks and guess what? I'm really enjoying some of this. But I find I have to read the book first so that I don't have to listen so closely and I can just sort of it's mostly like, do I like this person's voice and would I like to have them talk me to sleep? Generally speaking, that's what that is. And I want to just confess. Oh, and so anybody do the audiobook of this? Okay, I have found in my informal survey that people who held the book in their hands tend to get it. People who do the audiobook, 2 thumbs down, almost entirely. And so when I listened to the audiobook, I thought, if this was my first interaction with this book, I would have given it a thumbs down. Not because it wasn't good, not because I loved the voices, I thought it captured everything, but there is something about this that visually creates an experience that I think really walks you through the mindset. Because the thing, I mean, I'm just going to show you the first page. Read the first page because for me, I opened it up. Scene 1. I do improv. I do plays periodically. I wrote a book about improv and anxiety, and the book was really this mishmash of different elements of my journey that sometimes it was a script, sometimes it's prose, there's a little meditation in the middle of the book that says pause, breathe. It's all of these things that put together that create this, for me, a story. Well, guess what? That's what this book does. And so Lewis, it's scene 1, it's a script. In the early days after I left New York, I would ruminate, doubt all my choices. But when I met you, I began to thank my failure. Maybe failing is a kind of miracle. Maybe everything happened just right. Lewis is the main male character. Ren is his wife. Ren, you are an excellent teacher. You said so yourself. Everything in New York led you to what you should have been doing all along if you weren't so stubborn. And you're still so young. You can do anything. You can act, perform in plays if you want. I could support us if you want to try again. And then Lewis responds to her not in prose, but in a poem. Thank you. And here's the thing. It's a poem, right? And then later there's a story. And then you get through and we learn, like in the middle, there's a whole story about Ren's mother. It's just a few lines on a page. Her entire mother's story is in short paragraphs and single sentences. There's an element of this book that brings you into the experience of art. And so the first thing I just kind of want to talk about and just get any feedback if you have any thoughts on this is the nature of how we consume art. Because we don't think oftentimes about books as art. We think about them as literature. We don't think about them as paintings or music. But in my world, art is anything we create. And things we create are taking elements of things that exist and putting them together in a new way. And you do that with your food, in your garden, in your decorating. I mean, you know, I got dressed today and put some thought into the fact that I need to just be here as I am, even though I probably should be more professional. But it's art, everything. The table is artistic. Like that's a whole different thing now when you start looking at all the things that are created that we consume for our enjoyment as art. So does anyone have thoughts on, for those of you who read the book or for those of you who have thought, physically held it in your hand, thoughts on the nature of how this book was laid out visually and how it affected your reading experience? Yeah.
Well, I thought one of the things is by having short paragraphs per page. Thank you. By having the short paragraphs per page, it really made you pause. You know, it wasn't like, you know, like Then now Angel Down won the Pulitzer, and it's just and, if there's no end to it. I love the fact that there was like a pause between each part.
Yes. I love that sometimes it's in a script, meaning we're outside the story, engaging with the story kind of like as it's happening, in a way that lets us create the scene in our head, as opposed to prose, which tells us this is what's happening, this is what it smells like, this is what it looks like. But I love that. Thank you. Anybody else? You're shaking your head a lot back there. Any thoughts?
I love this book. I always love the two thumbs up, and I'm going to recommend it for at least one of my other book clubs. And a lot of them listen to audiobooks. So I'm going to caution them with what you said, because when you laid it out like that, yeah, when you're reading it as a script, it felt different than when you're reading the story, and it felt different even within the story when it was, like you said, like a poem written on the page, and it really made you focus on it in a different way and think about, why is this section different? Why did the author choose to write this differently? And it really made you think. Whereas if you were listening to it, I would have missed that completely.
Yeah. When I read this, I also was reading Tom Lake to do the presentation here. Now, was anyone here for the Tom Lake presentation? It was, it was vanilla ice cream. It was Abbott's vanilla ice cream in a cone, right? This is like espresso chocolate chip with artisan hot fudge and hand whipped cream on top for me. And so I couldn't help talk about it because they both were about acting. They both were about our town, which I still have not read. And so there was just so many parallels. And I know I raved a lot about it. And it's just, and I have not picked the book up because I can't read. So I literally did not pick the book up till this week. I couldn't find it, even though it was right in front of me because it's on my desk. It's just an experience for me. All right, anybody, thank you for that. And yes, I will, if I need to come and talk to your book club to say, like, you gotta read the book first.
So what struck me, and I think you might be able to comment on this as teaching theater yourself, is that this struck me as so much from Lewis's perspective, as not an actor, but as an acting teacher, a high school acting teacher. And this is the way he would think. He would think in scenes, he would think in poetry, he would take a stop when he would teach his students to give them another example of something else to inspire them. And that's what struck me the most about this, about how this is, in my mind, is the way a theater teacher would teach.
Mm-hmm. So I actually don't teach theater. I teach improv, which seems like they would be the same thing. But I have friends who are legitimate theater teachers who would be like, no, you don't teach theater. And I would agree with that. I'm like the person who leads you through creative journeys so that you can understand the process and forget about the product. Like, I want you to go from here to here and be a different person on the other end. And so that part is exactly right, even if I'm not teaching theater, because the reality is we focus so much on like where we're going that we're missing the journey. And so that's a great segue, because the thing that really struck me about this book is the vicious nature of transformation. We want to be different people. We're always trying to better ourselves. We're, self-help. We're all in this, enlightening our state of mind, and like, I'm helping people through transformation. That's what I do. But the reality is, we're going to get there, whether we want to do it and just put it off because we have excuses, or it's foisted on us against our will. So the thing that that kind of exemplifies this. Now, I love every character in this book. I could talk to you all day about this book. I personally, Lewis's story is the one that really jumps out to me, but lately I have been like Tiny Bird Woman, with like a flock of baby birds pecking and fighting each other in my entire body. And sometimes I don't know when they're going to break a bone or when they're going to squawk out, but it hurts. And it's frustrating, and it's not going to kill me, but they might kill each other, kind of thing. But Lewis is the one that really, really strikes me. Lewis was an actor first, but he always believed he had it in him to write one great play. In fact, it was one of the earliest things Wren learned about him. But she soon realized that Lewis's desire to talk about playwriting was greater than his desire to actually do it. He came up with many interesting storylines, and historically, they all went nowhere. Wren encouraged him to write. Lewis encouraged himself to write, but it was never the right time to write, and yet Lewis could not let the dream die. So he's describing his play to her, and he says it's funny and dark. Like maybe we shouldn't be laughing because the stakes are so real and intense. And right when it feels like it's too much chaos to bear, there will be a moment of transcendence, a spiritual lightness somewhere near the end of the second act, just lightly hinted at, of course, nothing that hits you over the head. And after everything is in pieces, we'll wonder if the characters can repair. The end of the play will ask a real question like, is it ever possible to rebuild? Or after time, is every relationship just a little bit broken? Lewis, seriously, you should write this one. Maybe, yeah, but probably not. Why? It's going to be a very busy semester. And then Lewis caved, as usual, to the chatter of resistance, the recitation of his very important responsibilities, the weighty things that would require all his life force, attention, and creative energy, why he should not do the thing that was, deep down, most important to him. Has anyone ever felt that way yourself? Right? You can raise your hand because I will put both hands up. That is a season I've been in for a very long time. This is kind of an aside thing, but like I read tarot, right? And so I pick a card. So every month I just have a card for reflection. And this month's card is the Nine of Wands, which again, I'm not reading like mystical things into anything. I'm all about like, give me a prompt so that I can meditate on like a thing, like it could be anything. And so the Nine of Wands symbolizes, it's a man, he's like got a bandage on his head. He's like clearly been in a battle. He's wounded, and he's standing there with 8 staffs around them. And each of the staff has a leaf on it showing growth. And the symbolism is he's been through 8 battles, and he's now carrying the 9th, right? He's been through the wars, and he's still at it. But the 9th is the one just before you get to the goal at 10. 10 is the goal. Like 10 when you're reading cards is where you want to be. And so the message is everything you've been through just made you stronger, and you carry that with you as you go through to the end, just like the transformation that we have here. And so I just looked at that before I left, and I thought, how ironic that I spend a lot of time beating myself up or saying I could do X, Y, Z, but I can't because I'm not feeling well. My eye's bothering me. My mom passed away last year. My dog can't be left alone for more than 2 hours. I mean, it's just, I could give you like a list 100 pages long of things why I don't do what I want to do. And yet, what happens in this book? Lewis doesn't have a choice. He turns into a freaking shark, okay? And that whole thing is the most beautiful analogy for the vicious nature of if you are supposed to do something and be somewhere, it's gonna happen even if you don't want it to happen. You can put it off, you can make excuses, but in the end, the universe is gonna make you go there even if it has to completely destroy you in order to get there. Life's purposes will always lead you to the place that you wanna be. Now, I find the whole thing actually hilarious, which is kind of the like there's no, it's funny and dark, because what does Lewis love about being a theater teacher? He loves adolescence. He loves teaching teenagers. He loves being a mentor and like imparting wisdom on there. Who does he get stuck with for the rest of his shark life? A 12-year-old shark who does not stop talking. And her pop culture references are ancient because she turned into a shark long before. And she does not stop talking. She is fixated on trying to find this cafe of the white shark, and he cannot stand to be around her. And he leaves her and then finds that he can't survive without her because she knows more than he does. He becomes the mentee to the teenager shark. And in the end, this is the part that just like, I just love it so much. They decide that they're going to become a family because they're stuck together and they need each other. And then they decide to build a town, our town, built of stories where people can come and pursue the creative life that Lewis has been building in his real life, right? He ended up exactly where he was supposed to be with this teenage shark. So it's funny and dark. Did anybody pick up on like that kind of connection, or was it just me? Because I work with teenagers. Just me? I love Margaret because if you've been, does anybody here work with teenagers or tweens, particularly that like 8 to 12-year-old age group, which is the most delightful, mind-boggling, mysterious time. They are so smart and they are so ignorant and they are so full of life and love and opinions about things they know nothing about. And it's delightful and very exhausting, but it's my favorite time because just like Margaret, they actually know a lot more. I work with some teenagers who are like really smart, but they don't really know how smart they are. They would be very dangerous if they did. And so that was just kind of that one thing when Lewis was transforming that. I wanted to tie the beginning and the end to, because let's see, I actually did mark some stuff here. Because in the middle of his transformation, does anyone remember when he goes to watch it, when he can't teach anymore, and so another a director comes and takes over the production of Our Town that year? All right, what did it struck me that Lewis was very upset, like in his norm, like as a shark person, but also he was offended, like mortally offended, to the point that he actually punches the guy and breaks his jaw as a shark. Because he's not doing it right. The new director is not doing it right. He's not doing it the way Lewis would do in it. And I thought about the notion that Lewis is so invested in his creative journey, and he's got all this passion for the wrong thing at that point. Like it's a passion for this teaching thing that he has, but he didn't really have the same passion to create this world and this play and follow through on the story until he ends up being forced into being in the shark thing. And I thought about, again, it brings me back a little bit to the creative nature of how we consume this, in that, like, I have a very strong opinion about this book. I love this book. Other people really don't like it. And I'm like, it's okay if you don't like it. Like, we don't have to fight about it. There's a lot of things we don't have to fight about because we're allowed to have different opinions about how we consume things and when it means to us. And if it doesn't speak to someone, that's great, because it might speak somewhere later, or something might speak to you later. But there's a point midway through the book, kind of probably in what would be the second act, actually. After what happens next, most would say Lewis took a turn. Maybe not yet for the worst, because definitions of right and wrong, good and bad, light and dark become more nebulous and subjective in uncommon circumstances. Meanwhile, winter revealed itself in small, biting glimpses. And so the other thing I want to just kind of bring up, does anybody have any thoughts on transformation? Like, I threw out the transformation, like they're ugly, and like her mom turns into, I think it was an iguana. There's the dragon, yes, the Komodo dragon. Thank you. Like about Emily Habeck. First of all, she's brilliant. She's brilliant. Like, her use of using the animals and these like dangerous animals as a metaphor for transformation. She could have had people have cancer. I have a friend who wrote a book about her sister passing away, and she turned her into a mermaid. It was like she wanted to turn her into something beautiful instead of the cancer that killed her, that was really ugly and horrible. And I found it just really interesting that the transformation in this book for people is through a vicious, horrible, like destructive thing. Does anybody have thoughts on that? Yeah.
So my feeling was the transformation was not about Lewis or about Angela, but about Ren, because she was the one that, first of all, she needs to guide her husband to this transformation, to guide her mother to this transformation, but she's transformed in addition, and then she has a daughter that's greater than the sum of the parts, basically.
Yes. Because here's the line that I got. Afterward, Ren realized she herself is the mountain she's been climbing all along. Yeah, I love that. I'm glad you noticed that. Thank you. Because she could have picked like illness, and she picked these strange things. And at no time did I even question a human could turn into a shark. Like, I think she did. Does anybody have any thoughts on that? Because when I tell people, oh, this guy turns into a shark and the mother's a Komodo, they're like, oh no, I don't do science fiction. I'm like, it's not really science fiction. It's not, like, it's real. Like, any thoughts on that? Okay,
Well, I thought it was interesting that the community at large accepted it. You know, it wasn't like, oh my God, this person just, but like, people were all accepting about it,
Mhm.
except for the person, I thought themselves, you know, they needed to learn how to accept it. I don't think Lewis really ever accepted it.
I think towards the end, he accepted where he was because he didn't really have a choice. But it was only when I think he and Margaret, again, I love Margaret, I think she's just a cute character, when he realized that he needed her. Like literally, he almost died because he wasn't listening to her. I mean, because you're gonna get eaten by a whale if you're not listening to the 12-year-old. Like once he realized that, and he got to her with his idea and said, like, "Hey, let's collaborate together with this." Lewis is still who he was as a person, which was, how can I work with someone younger? How can I bring an idea to the table? How can we create community together? That's what he's been doing the whole entire time. But you're right; it was Ren who had the real transformation. And I love the way you said that Joy became the collective of all of them, because she's the one who actually picks up Lewis's ideas at the end, and she finds his drawings of the tree houses, and she like is curious about the plays, and so like the energy that and effort that Lewis put out continues on after he's gone, and I love that. And I love at the end on Joy's 10th birthday when Ren takes, Joy is, for those who didn't read it, is, you guys haven't read the book, right? Some of it. Okay, so the synopsis is this. Lewis and Ren fall in love. Lewis gets diagnosed with this, I can't even say it. He's turning into a shark slowly. It's terrible, it's horrible. Ren loves him through it. And then we go to this interlude where we hear about Ren's mom a lot. And I'm thinking, what a horrible person Ren's mom is. Like, we're not really sure like what her deal is. Like, we know that she is put a lot of burden onto Ren to take care of her. We know that Ren had a very difficult childhood. She had a lot of responsibilities. And it isn't until later when we find out that Ren's mother is going through the same kind of transformation. She becomes a Komodo dragon, and she's dangerous, and she has to be committed. So Ren is having to take care of her mom in the same way. And then we go back and we hear her mom's story, Angela's story. And this is the one, I love the way that this was done, you guys. She did this so beautifully. She told in tiny little bits, because we don't need all the backstory, right? We just need her to say things like, I feel like my body was betraying me, like someone fell in love. Like, she captured everything in these tiny, the way that George looks at her with a smile. And we didn't need prose. We didn't even need poetry. We just needed a few lines. And so Lewis turns into a shark. Ren sees him through this. And then when it's time to let him go, she decides that she's going to learn how to scuba dive so that she can go into the water with him and continue to visit with him. And so she takes him to the ocean. There's a whole journey that goes, and it can't happen. Like, there's this whole thing where they have to, the letting go and the saying goodbye. And then they want to have a baby, but they can't because he's a shark and all of this stuff happens. But in the meantime, they have an interlude, and she ends up pregnant. And there's a baby. And so she has a daughter and she names her Joy. And Joy is this, like, her dad. It's like, it's a beautiful image together of them, and Ren finds healing through all of this. There's also Tiny Bird Woman, who's a whole separate little thing, because she's pregnant with 2 birds. Again, what a world this is that she created, where I didn't even question that the woman she's not having babies, she's having birds. All right, it's fine. So they go to the ocean where Ren says goodbye to Lewis. Joy has no idea what's happening. Doesn't matter. She doesn't need to. And she's telling her, like, Joy's playing in the water, and Ren speaks quietly to the wind, a wind she hopes will carry her message like light waves to another galaxy across the sea to Lewis. At this point, Lewis and Margaret have made peace. Like, they've made peace. They're creating a community. He's got a life. He has moved on to the life. Has not forgot about Ren. The love has not died. It's just, this is what it is. The transformation has happened, and we're going to continue on with our life's purpose. This is what Ren says. Well, and it's in a poem. Well, here I am, doing what you told me, surviving, existing, beginning again.
Your work has a life of its own now, extended beyond time, chaos, me. The last time we were here, I thought I had nothing left, but you had already given me the world. I just didn't know it yet. Everything is different. I don't think you'd recognize me. And that is a great sum of this journey that they're all on. This, I think I got to the end of this book, and what I thought was, and again, I had a death in my family last year, and I think the thing that I took away, this is a love story, Shark Heart, a love story. What is the love? The love is the letting go, so people can be who they need to be and where they need to be. And in that, we allow ourselves to become who we're supposed to be, how we're supposed to be, when and where we're supposed to be. I think we sometimes have a notion that love means hanging on and fighting and making things happen. And I think the biggest, highest kind of love, and I think that's what Ren and Lewis found. I'm so sorry, I didn't expect this. Banging on the microphone. Is the letting go, right? Like we have choices to let go. We have choices all through the thing, but in the end, in this book, the transformation and choices are foisted upon them without their permission. Nobody wants this. Like, I don't want my mom to die. Like, there's just things you don't have a choice in. But in that, you change. You find who you are. You find your purpose. You get up and you find a 12-year-old who can be your mentor. Is this me doing that? I'm so sorry. Here, we'll just do this over here. All right. Anyway, okay, how are we doing here? Anybody got questions? Anything? Yeah.
I apologize. I just finished this last night, so it's very.
No, you're told.
Listen,
I want to tell you something. No one engages with me with this book because they either love it or hate it.
Well,
And
you can call me anytime. So.
I love this book, and so I'm thrilled to death that someone feels the same way. Yeah, bring it on.
So the question that I have is, again, there are two stories of transformation. Right? There's the story of Lewis, who it ends up, he goes off into the sea and he finds this other life. And then there's the story of Angela, who it appears chooses to die in a facility and not be liberated into Indonesia or they send the other Kimono. So I guess my question is, are these stories of transformation, and how do you contrast those two?
Gosh, I feel like there's so many stories of transformation, and I actually forgot that's how Angela's mom chose to. So I'm glad that you reminded me. Again, I haven't refreshed that. I think there are points in our journeys where we get to make the decisions about how we want to live that transformation. Sometimes it's the ending of us, and sometimes it's the shit, I don't really want it to be the ending. Lewis didn't want to be with Margaret because she was a giant pain in the tail, and yet when he was almost eaten by a shark and there's blood and everything, who saves him? Margaret. Now, he could have said, I'm just going to do this on my own and know the consequences. He did not want that. I think Margaret's mom had the opportunity to go out on her own terms, which I do think is something that happens to us. Like, we have that. We don't have to accept transformation, but it doesn't mean we continue on as we are. Sometimes the growth is necessary for our forward journey, if that makes sense. And even if there are a lot of ways to not continue on, and some of them are to just wither on the vine. I'm not like, I don't think and I'm not talking about like an active ending. I'm talking about just a wasting your time and resources kind of thing. And I think Margaret's mom was like, this is the way I'm gonna stay here and go. I don't know. I don't remember. Tell me what happened with was there, did she have feelings about that? Because I remember now her not wanting to go, but
so Ren describes her mother in the first part of the book as being in a facility,
right?
Which we're presuming is some kind of elder care facility or some kind of seriously for the seriously incurable. But it turns out it's not the case, and it turns out that Lewis had this opportunity as well. that he could have gone, they call it Ocean's 3, I think they call it.
Yeah. Oh, right, yes.
In his case. But you know, when she first goes to the facility, when we learn about this, well, they're talking about, okay, you'll transform, and then we'll introduce you into the wild in a place where it's good to be in the wild. Lewis goes to the ocean, where that's where sharks live, and she's going to go to Indonesia. She could go to Indonesia, and she says, no, I'm not going to do that. And it's so it seems to me like what seems to me striking about it was that Angela did have so much life in her, and she did have so much love in her, and so it seems to me like it's a weird juxtaposition, right? Lewis is going to accept this, and he's going to do this, and whatever happens is going to happen because he's an actor. It's just another role for him, right? But Angela doesn't have those resources, and that really struck me as, you know, these two people in Ren's life, like, why couldn't she have made it happen in a different way, I guess.
Yeah, no, I love that.
Maybe it's a book, right? That's what you do. But, you know, it just struck me as
No.
being very different outcomes. Like, could have been different.
Yeah, I love that. So I remember Angela's story when she's transforming. For you all, she became a Komodo dragon, and Ren was like in her teens or maybe not quite to college, at high school, and she became exceptionally dangerous. And so they had a panic room built with a door. There was like a facility, like she should have gone to a facility earlier. They had like a social worker. I always walked away from the story of Angela with her feeling like she had done her work, right? Like she had raised Ren as best she could. She did the best that she could. And when the time came, she didn't want to hurt her anymore. I mean, I feel like that was maybe something going on. I might have been injecting my own stuff in there.
Realistically, she wasn't even 30.
She's very young, but very, very dangerous. Like the recognition that what she was becoming was a danger. She didn't have anything else to offer. I think Lewis thought he was the cat's meow. Like he knew that there was something happening. As a matter of fact, let me see if I can find this quote, because it just, like, he was, you're right. After 2 weeks of evening research, Lewis realized it was happening, the holiest of creative experiences, when two ingredients, the actor and the character, combined to form a new substance entirely, one resembling nothing of its parent components. Lewis would enter the uncomplicated consciousness of a great white shark in extended flashes, desiring nothing but food and survival, and then return to himself, the human, with all his hopes, loves, dreams, and memories. The sensation of shifting between identities both thrilled and terrified him. What would happen to his self in the moment of complete metamorphosis when Lewis, an actor, became a great white shark, the character, permanently? Was Lewis's disease an art form? No, not art. Art seemed too calculated and charted. This metamorphosis was bigger and more unpredictable than art. It was a thing beyond maybe magic. Lewis scrabbled through the doors in the coffee table for a pen so he could capture this new eclectic thought. I've had it all wrong. If magic exists in a real way, it's not here to dazzle us with all that is unreal to the naked eye. What if magic is just mislabeled peace? A peace that says suffering doesn't have a purpose or reason. A peace that says meaning is the medicine. A peace that says I don't need to know how or why, but she'll be all right. Ren will be okay. I think this is why Lewis went on, because I don't want to say it's an arrogance. I think it's a drive, a creative drive. I think Angela's purpose was Ren. And once she realized that she was going to be unable to take her any farther, there wasn't really anything for her to go on to. That was my take on it, now that like we're refreshing our memory on that. Because it all, like, they're all right. What about tiny bird woman? You know, she had two birds inside of her, and we kind of know she's gonna die, because that's what's happening. The birds can't get out without killing her. And so it's fatalistic, and she and Ren are going to be friends. Don't think it's a coincidence Ren's a bird and the lady's having birds. And in the end, she dies, and, you know, Ren sees the obituary. Like, she serves this tiny purpose in there, but her transformation doesn't seem to have any purpose other than to show us that sometimes it is what it is. It is what it is. This is what happened. She endured it till it was done, and then it was over, and it just motivated Ren a little bit. But I think you're right. I think, you know, all of this was in the end driving Ren to the transformation, and then really bringing joy. Like, could it have been a better name? Bringing joy. to carry on Lewis's work and Ren's love.
Joanne, I know when we were talking, when we were talking, and Cindy and I were talking, I remember after we read it and trying to, narrow down like what exactly
Is the book about?
is the metaphor, right? Like what exact metaphor, but it probably, when you're talking about transformation, like that is the exact metaphor because, we're like, whatever personal experience you bring to whatever you're thinking, because we were like, oh, is it someone who is declining into Alzheimer's or dementia? Is it someone who is dying of a physical disease? Is it a marriage dissolving? Is it a divorce? Is it just a general mental health decline? Is it, it's like any type of thing could like fit the metaphor that the author created. And then as you're talking too, it just got me more thinking about not related to that, but the idea of how globally humans have destroyed the earth and the animals, and this is almost like the animals reclaiming their space.
Oh yeah. Oh God, that's good.
That one just struck me.
Yeah, yeah. I think part of the reason that, and I'm really glad that she did not use real illnesses, is because we would be trying to apply the concept of like, oh, if you have Alzheimer's, if you have this, where the reality is and again, this is my take. This is why I love this book so much, because I do think if you read poetry, you're going to see something in here. If you're a theater, you're going to see something in here. The nature of transformation. I'm going to see if I can find the note that I wrote down here. It's the nature. I have to find it. It's the nature, the vicious nature of transformation, the purpose that you have in your life. How, if you are truly driven by this innate thing that you need to do and complete to find meaning and purpose, I personally believe the universe is going to make that happen for you, even if you don't want it, and it's going to happen in a way you aren't going to want, and it might require the utter destruction of everything that you're holding on to, because you cannot move forward if you're holding on to what's in the past. Even if you love the thing that's in the past, sometimes the love is the letting go, and that's what blooms for everyone. Like it brings this thing to the world in a bigger, higher thing. Like it is the magic. So I do like that she picked, because I don't know, a shark. I happen to be a hypochondriac, and so I can go like, could you turn into a shark? Like, is there such a condition? I'm not gonna lie, I Googled every single one of that. Let me see if I think I had one thing on there. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. So, like, and again, just to circle back to Ren, I said I wrote in the letting go. She thinks she's freeing Lewis and that whole depressive drive and journey back to home again, but she doesn't really understand that she's freeing herself, and that in the letting go of Lewis, she's actually loving herself as much as she loved him, because what she did was open the door to everything she really wanted, which was to have a baby. Up until then, who was she giving? Like, Ren is about the out. Like, okay, oh, she's also an accountant. So for those of you who haven't read the book, she is like, Lewis is the theater person. He's the creative person. He operates on the whole thing. She's the accountant. Spreadsheets, planning, everything is by the book. Like, she is organized. And so it is, she reminds me of a friend I have who's extremely, I will take care of it. It doesn't matter. It's my job to take care of everyone. I will take care of everyone, even if it exhausts me, even if it depresses me, even if I can't have time to do the things I want to do. It is my job to take care of everyone in the whole entire world. We all know that person. That's why she takes care of her mom. That's why she takes care of Ren. But when she gets to Joy, there's a difference there, because now it's like you said, it's like the combination of all these beautiful things. And so in letting go, we don't just love the person that we let go, we love ourselves enough to give ourselves the space to see what we can be when we are not giving so much to other people. Are there anyone in this room know what that feels like? Even to your family, even to your kids, overworking kind of things. Like, it's okay to let go of that transformation. So for me, the theme was really generally the vicious nature of transformation. Like, how we go from here to here, and it's going to happen for us even if we don't want it.
I had a question.
Yeah.
For you, because of the, going back to Angela.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things that bothered me about this book is the fact that, you know, like Lewis became a shark, went into the water, but when Angela, when they talked about the fact of going to Indonesia, and then the center talked about it, and she said, no, she doesn't want to do that, and they said, well, then she will be exterminated. And in a way, Warren said, oh, okay, you know, I felt that she let her mom just disappear after that, you know. Did you feel that, or?
Well, I mean, I'm not sure that there's anything she could do. You know, there was.
Well, she could have gone to Indonesia, you know.
Yeah, I mean, but again, her mom was.
But isn't that goes back to the love and letting people go, right? Like if there, like there are times when like it's this or this, right? And I want so badly, so many times for there to be a third option. You know, a year ago at this time, I wanted my mom to have a third option. There was no third option. There was no option. By the time we got to July 11th, there was one option, and it was happening regardless of what was going to happen, right? And I think Ren, as part of her growth, it got to that place because she did this with her mom. She loved her mom. You know, if you know, those of you who read the book know what she went through in order to take care of her mom and the danger she put herself in. There's a point at which all the things that her mom did for her, she had to let her make the decision for what she wanted and then walk away from that because her mom isn't really her mom anymore. Her mom was not the same person and she couldn't do anything about it. That's the hard part, right? Letting people be who they're going to be, how they want to be, and maybe not being able to walk that journey with them.
I think she also carried a lot of resentment for her mother for a very long time, especially when it was still fresh, when she was visiting her, when she was at her most dangerous. And I think that was part of what held Ren back for so long, was because she did carry so much resentment. And you as a reader, I think, are feeling that too. I know I felt a lot of resentment towards Angela, even as I'm reading her story and feeling compassion for her. I'm resenting her for some of the choices that she's making. You know, why can't she, you know, if she chose to let George in, think how different Ren's life would have turned out. Ren herself would have turned out. She wouldn't have, you know, had such a burden placed solely on her at such a young age. So I think that might have also informed that character,
yeah,
and some of her decisions.
And here's the thing that comes to me. What happens in the end? Who comes back? George. Who's there when Ren is now by herself with Joy? And who came to her fully prepared to step into her life with love and support and no baggage? George is back, right? Like sometimes we get exactly what we need, right? What's the song? Like, you don't always get what you want, but you get what you need. Well, you know, was part of her journey because one of the things that Ren had to do was stand on her own 2 feet. She had to carry her 8 wands to get to the 9th wand so she could get to the goal on her own, right? Like maybe that was her transformation too, right? Sometimes resentment and regret can be a really good motivator, and you know, she hid a lot of it. You know, Lewis was very resentful and very angry. He was outwardly, overtly just a real jerk. And understandably, like angry and dangerous and all of that. And Ren had to hold it in because that person, we all have that person in our life who just pays on a smile, like, I can handle this, I can do this, I will take care of you. I love you enough to sacrifice everything about myself. And she needs to be resentful in order to find like maybe her motivation for that. I'm thinking out loud as we're saying this because, again, I could talk about this book all day. There's so many things to talk about. I think that was all I wanted to talk about. I feel like there was one more thing I wanted to read you, but maybe not. Maybe that was all my notes. All right, here's the thing I wanted to leave you with, Lewis. And Lewis and Margaret. I love this, I'm sorry. The scene, a giant, Lewis. I used to act, write, teach. I wanted to be a giant, but maybe I should have just been me. Margaret, tell me the story of the play you wrote. Act it out. Lewis, I don't remember any of it. Margaret, well, that's too bad. I'm bored. I would like to hear a story. Lewis, Margaret, we don't need to find the White Shark Cafe. Let's make a town right here, right now. Margaret, really? You mean it? Lewis, in poem. I've been thinking lately, maybe we do get new performances of the same day, opportunities to be more accepting and loving. Maybe practice, rehearsal is also the way to freedom. We can start over. Time can loop back on itself. And here I am again with you, Margaret, trying. Margaret, I literally have no idea what you're talking about. And that's how I wanted to end this, because I just feel like there's magic and transformation and so many things to walk away from this. So we are open to questions or anything else you want to bring up about this, about our town, which I still haven't not watched or read, or I think I started reading it. My dog, we can look on the camera and see how he's doing.
I just wanted to let you know, I don't know if you like local theater or not, but our town is going to be performed,
Oh,
I
yeah.
think, in the autumn by which group?
I think it's the
theater
it's the
company at Christchurch.
Mhm, yep.
Yeah, they're doing a streetcar named Desire Now, which
Yes.
I'm going to see, but I noticed it, so it might be your opportunity. Should you want to check it
Yes,
out.
I have friends in that group too, and so here's the thing, you guys. My life the last year has been limited by a dog with separation anxiety, and so because it was just a whole thing. I'm not even going to go into it, but we're in this very regimented desensitization program, and I am very fortunate that I have been able to follow everything by the rules. Meaning the dog is never left home alone, and if he is home, I have a dog sitter or he goes somewhere else. So we have gone from dog tearing a thing apart, like jumping, like he could jump this high. I mean, it's dangerously downstairs. It was bad. And so, but I don't go anywhere at night because I don't have anyone to watch the dog at night. So we're inching our way to that. But in that's part of kind of the transformation that I'm talking about. Like I had to stop acting. I stopped teaching. I stopped doing anything in the evenings. I stopped going to auditions. What's that?
I said there are matinees. I'm just good.
No, but I mean, I can't leave the house, like unless I have a dog sitter, right? And it's partly an excuse. But it's also been for me, and there are people who get it. If you have dogs with separation anxiety, they understand, and like we're committed. My dog trainer has been doing this for us out of the goodness of her heart. In that, I have become a very different person. I have had to just be present in sometimes being alone a lot. I have been being present in something my therapist brought to the table to me. And she's like, you are always facilitating, but you're never participating anymore. And so I have taken a step back. And in January, I started doing this daily collage that started with just one collage. I just made a collage. Whatever. I don't even like collage. I don't do collage. I got some glue and I pasted something in a sketchbook I found in a drawer and I moved on. And the next day I was like, what if and so I pulled out the stuff again. I've so far made 80 collages. And so if you had told me I was going to do 5 collages, I would have laughed in your face. I never would have done that. But I have, because my life has been calm, the stressors that I was always trying to solve around are gone because the excuse was like, and so I'm not, I mean, I'll check out our town, but it's been really different for me to be pulled in to the bubble, I guess.
It makes me just think, but what you said just makes me think in the book, like another potential theme for better or worse is sometimes we are more willing to take care of our animals than other humans.
Yeah.
Right?
So I think there are, and here's what's happened. My dog has become my emotional support animal. My therapist is giving me a letter. Also, Monday, there's one Monday a month at East Rochester, we're doing this cozy, quiet in an hour where you can come and just sit for an hour. Bo and I will be there Monday, and he from 5:30 to 6. He's the greatest dog in the world. He would have come here and just, he would have shed hair everywhere, but like he'd have found a spot and laid down and been completely fine. Like there is all of these good things happening because of that, because now he can travel with me. And I did a painting class with children, and he just like found a spot and everyone painted around him. And I would never have done those things. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't have a desire to see a play or like audition anymore. I had a parent ask me to teach it if I would do improv, because their therapist said they thought that adult and children should do the improv. And I'm like, I love this. I'll do improv therapy with you, 100%. But like, I don't want to be on stage. I just backed out of a Fringe show because I don't know, transformation. It's foisted on me a little bit. But yeah.
I was just gonna, I had another thought about the transformation, obviously, in this book. I found it interesting that the author chose to, and I found surprising actually, how much of Lewis's humanity remained after his transformation, with his physical transformation was finished. When you get into his mind and when he's, thinking to himself, he's in the ocean, he's released. I was very surprised because from the beginning of the book, as he's making this transformation, it seems like he's becoming completely a shark, and he's not Lewis anymore. And I found it very surprising when you get into his mind after he's released and his interactions with Margaret and how much he remembers and how much he thinks about. And I thought that was really a great thing to think about, because there's so many different expressions of love in this story. It really is a love story. So many different types of love, but within Lewis and Ren's love, their love itself transformed. And I thought that he didn't forget her. He remembered her. That love still existed. He still existed. And the essential part of him, still existed. And the same for Ren. Through Joy, she still has the essential part of, remembering Lewis. And so that love, even though they both, I agree, they both let go in a way, and that's what they had to do to continue on, I felt like it was still there.
Yeah.
Just transformed.
I love that. I love that because it speaks exactly to Lewis with like the character and the actor becoming this new thing. And also it's encouraging, isn't it, to know that like his transformation is so, violent and visceral and horrible. And yet in the end, he came to a place and a being where he could fulfill his purpose, right? Like we have this notion sometimes that with meaning in life, we need to fulfill our purpose. And we're trying to fulfill our purpose as we are now, when really our purpose is like, we need to just be moving forward to being the person for whom that purpose is designed, right? It doesn't mean, and I think we have, I don't know, maybe I just speak from my own fear. The change of changing who we are is terrifying, right? I don't want to be the person who at my age is in my life situation. I don't want to be this. I don't want to change anything at all. I want to fulfill my purpose while still staying where I am. But like, you have to step off that cliff and hope that something's going to catch you. And that's when you realize like, oh, like I did not have to be completely destroyed. I just had to, I'm still who I am. It just looks a little different. And now that's where the freedom comes. Like he's swimming in the ocean instead of like arguing with teenagers in an auditorium, right?
Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you guys. Thank you guys very much.